Hello, and welcome to the Quickstart tutorial for Puzzler for HFPS. In this video, we're going to be covering the puzzle type solo item, which allows us to use a singular item for the puzzle type interaction. Here, in the demo scene, we have the single item set up in the first room, which is the bedroom. So we'll select single item, and then we'll go to the scene view, and we can see the single item area right here. All major features for puzzle interactions are handled by the Puzzler handler. In this case, we're going to look over the solo item setup for the puzzle interaction. Here, under General Options, we have the first value, which is Puzzle Type. This just sets what type of puzzle that we're going to be using. In this case, we're going to do solo item or single item. Below that, we have the Complete Type. The Complete Type sets how the puzzle will be completed once it is actually finished. In this case, we have it set to auto, but we could also set it to manual in case we want to have events happen prior to the actual puzzle being completed, or have some sort of condition which needs to be met to complete the puzzle. And then you can make a manual call to the Puzzler handler to complete the puzzle. Below that, we have the Lock Type. The Lock Type sets how interactable objects in the puzzle will be locked, so we can do None or On Complete. Since we're not actually using objects that are being placed in the slots that can be interacted with or taken back, then we're going to leave it as None. The Save State option allows us to set if we're going to save this puzzle's state or not when the scene or the game is saved. In this case, we're going to save it as active. If we don't want this puzzle state to be saved, then we set it to Not Active. When it saves in the active state, it will save whatever's in the slots, the completion state, and anything linked to the puzzle itself. If for some reason you want the complete of the puzzle to be delayed, you can always use the Complete Delay option here, and then set the value of how long you want the delay to occur, which allows the completion of the puzzle to wait until that time has passed. In certain cases, we may want to link one complete state of this puzzle to another puzzle. So here we can use the Link Complete State option, and then assign the handler that we want the complete state to transfer to. So if the single item is completed here, it will also affect the lights puzzle here and complete that as well. In the items options, we can assign what item will be accepted for this puzzle. If you want to change the item that's used, you can click the paperclip and then assign the item that you want from the list. In the objectives options, we can set if we want to show the objective update as it occurs. In this case, we're doing the objective ID of 0, which updates the puzzle alter objective. Since we have the completion count set to 4 and the display using 0, 1, it will display back the number of completion counts for the Buddhas filled in the altar. So since we have show objective update set to true and the objective ID set here, it will show the pop-up in the corner here when we update the objective, or when a slot is filled. If for some reason you want there to be delay in between the slot fill and the objective update, then you can use the update delay option here and then fill in the value as you want. And if we don't want to use the delay, we obviously can turn it off, and then it will not use the delay. In the interaction options, we can set how the interaction actually occurs. At the top here, we have the interaction type, which allows us to set if we're going to open the inventory or auto-detect the interaction itself. So if we select auto-detect, it will auto-detect the item that is set here in item options if it's present in the player's inventory. If it is, then it will move on to the item use type. If we set the item use type to remove, then it will remove that inventory item from the player's inventory. If we set it to keep, then it will allow the user to keep that item and use it elsewhere. Below that, we have the text that will display on interaction. When it opens the inventory, it'll say select and then attach the name of the item assigned here. The same thing will happen if you don't have it in your inventory. It'll say you don't have any, and then it'll assign the Buddha statue name there. And at the very bottom here, we have the Use Interact Sound option. If we have that as true, then we can put in the name of the sound that we want to use from the sound library when the actual interaction happens. In this case, we're not going to use that, so we have it as off. One of the most important features to have set up is the interaction handler. Here, under interactions, I have a interact event set up, which allows the interact event to trigger on the player interaction and send the call interaction init to the puzzler handler. That starts the interaction between this interaction point and the puzzle itself. Next up, we have the slots options. At the top here, we can assign the solo prefab, which will use the prefab to fill in the slots here as they are assigned or the item is used. And below that, in the solo slots, we can assign the number of slots or the slots used in the actual puzzle itself. Since we're using 4 for the completion type in the objectives, we're going to have 4 different slots for the items to fill. For each slot, we can assign the name of the slot and the actual holder or the transform where the solo prefab will be instantiated into. We can also assign events or actions to be called based on what's happening. We have the onActivate event and the onActivate load. The onActivate happens when the slot is filled or the prefab is instantiated, and the onActivate load happens when the scene or game is saved and loaded back. Last but not least, we have the sound options, which allows us to set if we're going to use sounds for this puzzle, the sound source where the sounds will come from, and then we can store a library of sounds and custom volume and custom pitch and the actual sound clip here for as many sound effects as we want. You can then call back to the sound effects using the name or the index slot. The Events tab allows us to set different types of custom actions to happen based on the stage the puzzle is in. At the top here, we have the onCorrect item. This event will always trigger whenever a correct item is accepted or a slot is filled. The onPuzzleComplete will obviously trigger once the puzzle is completed. We can also have a delayed puzzle complete event happen after the puzzle completion. Here we can also assign the wait time for that delay to happen. And at the bottom here, we have onCompleteLoad, which happens after the scene or game is saved and loaded back. So for this single item puzzle, on the puzzle complete state, what we're triggering is to have the interaction handler turn off. We're playing a sound of reveal. We're triggering a hint to display here, and then we're also triggering the lightning to display through the windows back here. Below that, in the delayed event, we're going to turn on a key after a certain period of time, which is 1 second, and then we're going to dissolve that key in so it displays correctly. And when the scene or game is saved and loaded back, we're going to disable the interaction handler, disable the hint, turn on the key if it has not been picked up, and then we're going to dissolve that key in quickly using Dissolve Quick In. And that covers the major features for Puzzler Handler on a solo item or single item type. You can look at the puzzle area layout to see how I have things set up and linked in, such as the hint triggers, hint complete, the dissolve controllers, audio source references, transforms for the actual usage of slots, models that are used in the actual puzzle, and then objectives used for completion or update. And that brings us to the end of this video. I hope this video has been insightful on how to set up and use a solo item puzzle. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to drop a comment below, send me an email, or message me on Discord. As usual, thank you for watching.